Okay, check out this picture. This picture was taken December 21st, 2010. That's then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signing a bill that was passed by the House so it can officially be sent to the president's desk to become law. Did you know that Speaker of the House has to sign every bill passed by Congress before the president does? That usually does not happen in a big public ceremony, but this time it did. Because what Nancy Pelosi is signing there is the official repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. On the far right of the picture, you can see Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer of California. She was one of the chief proponents of repeal in the U.S. Senate. On the far left of the picture, let's see, there's Major Mike Almy there from the Air Force. And who's the hairless guy? The gentleman smiling from ear to ear. That would be Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach. If he looks familiar to you, it's because he has been a guest on this show. Colonel Fehrenbach came out nationally on this show in May 2009, a year and a half before the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal was signed into law. At that time, Colonel Fehrenbach had just been informed that he was being discharged from the military for being gay. He was a highly decorated Air Force fighter pilot with extensive combat experience. He was just 2 years short of his retirement, but the U.S. military launched an investigation into his personal life. They determined that he was gay, and then they went about kicking him out. Victor Fehrenbach fought that discharge. He filed a lawsuit contending that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was unconstitutional. And the moral urgency of stories like his ultimately resulted in Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed. More than a year after appearing on this program, Victor stood alongside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as she sent that repeal on to President Obama. And then 9 months later, after a years-long struggle, Victor Fehrenbach officially retired from the U.S. Air Force with the full military benefits that he earned. Since his retirement, Victor has started grad school and just recently, very recently, he has started a new job at the U.S. State Department. He's also now the author of a brand new book about his journey, which is called Out of the Blue. We've got a link to it posted at our website today. And it was from Victor yesterday morning that I first learned that his friend and his fellow combatant in the fight for equality in the military, Chief Warrant Officer Charlie Morgan, had died yesterday from the breast cancer that she had fought for so long. She lived long enough to see the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but not long enough to see the end of the Defense of Marriage Act. And that law bans her wife, now her widow, from receiving the same benefits that other military families would receive in such a sad circumstance. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach joins us tonight for the interview. Victor, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
I know you were good friends with Charlie, who died yesterday. How would you describe her role, what she was fighting for, alongside you?
Well, we met just over a year ago, right about the time that you talked about, where she met with John Boehner's staff. And strangely enough, she told me a story that while she was deployed in Kuwait, she sat and she watched you and I at this table telling my story. And she told me that, thank you, by the way, for letting me tell my story, because she said it inspired her. She said when Don't Ask, Don't Tell is repealed, she'll come out and she'll tell her story about her family and her fight and her struggles. And I think she made a huge difference.
She did come out the day of repeal. She
absolutely.
herself got on television and came out for the first time ever.
Yeah, and I think her story, made a big difference in changing hearts and minds. I know people, no matter what their religious affiliation or their political affiliation were, when I told Charlie's story to them, they just said, that's not right. And it changed their minds. And so she made a huge impact. I know I was heartbroken yesterday, not just because she died. We all knew she was dying. But we wanted her to live, to see March, to see the Supreme Court take up DOMA, to live till June, to see DOMA finally overturned by the Supreme Court. That wasn't meant to be. And now, you saw in the video, one of her greatest fears was she would die, and then her wife Karen and her daughter Casey Elena would not be cared for. So I think some of the steps that we saw Secretary Panetta take today, those are going to help thousands of people. They'll be enacted in the summertime, but not, it wasn't in time to help Charlie's family.
And they've gone as far as they can, but the main benefits, things like, on-base housing and the kinds of benefits that would make a lifetime difference to Charlie's child and to her wife, those benefits, the Pentagon, no matter how much they want to, they can't do those things because they are precluded by law because of DOMA.
Yeah, and Secretary Panetta and the President, they did all they could under the law, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. And here's another story Charlie told me. She said when she was doing her lobbying, she went to see Senator Shaheen. We saw that on the video. She also went to see her then congressman from New Hampshire, and she told her story. And the congressman said, oh, but you're okay. You live in New Hampshire. You're legally married in New Hampshire. That's legal, so you're taken care of. So her congressman didn't even know that her wife was treated as a second-class citizen and didn't enjoy the benefits that the other military families enjoyed. So if the congressman didn't know, the American public has no idea. So we need to continue telling Charlie's story.
The reason that I wanted to play that particular clip of her lobbying Jeanne Shaheen there, and Jeanne Shaheen, obviously somebody who's been very supportive of her, but you see when she tells Jeanne Shaheen her diagnosis, and the senator responds by saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear about this. And you can see Charlie essentially being like, yeah, I know you're sorry. I don't actually need you to be sorry. I need you to go fast.
Do something.
There's some urgency here.
There is.
Looking ahead to the State of the Union is tomorrow. This is the president who repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. The outgoing defense secretary ended the ban on women in combat, oversaw the implementation of the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, took all these actions on previously taboo subjects like sexual assault in the military. There is this sense that things are moving fast. What do you think, given your experience both in the military and as an advocate, is the way to make the motion go faster?
Just what I did, just what your other guest did, just what Charlie did, is tell our stories. I wrote an op-ed in the Huffington Post today as well because I said, the clock is ticking. We see change accelerated. I think the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell started that. We see the vote in the British Parliament, an overwhelming vote. We saw a Supreme Court decision in Mexico. We've seen the changes that were announced today. The changes are happening faster, but we could all sit idly back and watch the clock tick away, or we can do something about it. We can become more active. We can stand up. We can tell our stories, and we can vote. Things like that. One of the things that are standing in our way right now, as you mentioned, Speaker Boehner is defending DOMA, is wasting millions of taxpayer dollars as we speak. We can vote, we can make changes in the House and make the law change if the Supreme Court doesn't overturn it. But I have faith that it will. But I don't think we'll see these changes happen faster unless more of us come forward and tell our stories, because that's the way to change hearts and minds.
Didn't you grow up right near his district?
Yeah, he's my congressman. So
he doesn't want to talk to you about this stuff either?
No. And that's why maybe I would love to see the president tomorrow mention Charlie Morgan's name with the speaker over his shoulder. Because, he sent his staff to speak with Charlie, but didn't do it himself. Yeah. And if the president mentions her story, maybe that will change his mind as well.
Speaker Boehner, if you would like to get in touch with retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach, or maybe meet with Victor and with Charlie's widow, I can hook you up. I have their phone numbers. And even though I'm not supposed to give them out in this case, I will.
Please do.
Victor Fehrenbach, thank you so much. It's great to see you, man.
Thanks again, Rachel. Good to see you.
We'll be right back.